Hey, baby.
This is the coolest show in the history of television.
Yeah, yeah, it's the coolest show in the history of television. Yeah.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary, where I do the research to try to teach you a little something about what you're drinking. Tonight, we're going to be going back to one of my favorite Texas distilleries, Balcones. Now, I've tried several things from Balcones before. The single malt is fantastic. The rye is really good. It makes a really good Manhattan. But also the peated that I've tried at whatever. I've had a lot of their expressions, and I've liked them all. So, if you're interested in learning about any of these things, check the links up there. I'll put a whole bunch of Balcones, but if you want to know specifically about the history, look at the one on the pot still, or check out the live stream I did with their head distiller not too long ago, actually. His name is Jared, and he was really entertaining, really smart guy. So I'll put the link up there as well. All right, so True Blue, or Baby Blue, I should say. This was the first whiskey to come out of Texas since Prohibition and be commercially available, which blows my mind because it really wasn't that long ago. And now with the crazy whiskey scene that Texas has, it's hard to believe that they weren't just cranking out whiskey, but whatever. So for those of you that don't know, this is a corn whiskey. Now, corn whiskey is different than bourbon, and there's a couple of key reasons, and I am the Whiskey Dictionary, so I will help you to understand. So bourbon has to be 51% corn. I think most of us know that. If you don't, now you do. Corn whiskey has to be 80% corn, and it is not required to spend any time in wood, specifically oak. So it doesn't have to really be aged at all. But the thing that makes it corn whiskey, clearly this has some color to it. It's spent some time in wood. It can't spend any time in new charred oak barrels. It has to be either uncharred or an ex-bourbon barrel, essentially. And if it meets those requirements, then you're good. There's a couple of other little nuances about the amount that it goes into the barrel at with ABV and all that stuff, but don't worry about that. Basically, can't be in a new charred oak barrel. So that's why, even though this is still fairly new, the color on this is interesting and I think totally a byproduct of being in Texas, and just the heat fluctuations that they have there are nuts and does tend to give whiskey heavier color a little faster. So before we get into the nosing and the tasting here, I have to remember that this is a corn whiskey, so it's going to smell a little bit different. I'm telling this for myself, and if you have it at home, something to remember. But the reason I'm holding the bottle is on the back, they specifically say it's intentionally youthful. I'm not usually a fan of youthful tasting whiskeys. Call me a snob, I don't care. I like higher age statements on pretty much everything. Bourbon, has a lot of leeway because a heavier bourbon really just tastes like oak. But in general, really young whiskeys tend to get a negative for me. So trying to put that in my brain to not limit myself to thinking about that. All right. Anyway, let's go ahead and give this a nose. And it is very different. Corn whiskey, I might say this might be the first corn whiskey I've reviewed on this channel. I might have done like a new make or something at some point, but either way, let's just assume this is the first corn whiskey, because this is still something I'm very unused to. So there's a note here, which you don't get often. Buttered popcorn. And that is most of it. So maybe some like buttermilk pancakes, which is a little strange. But I'm trying to think of, you know what it is? It's when you're making a buttermilk or like a pancake, any pancake, even just like Aunt Jemima stuff, right? So if you are making it and you're getting those like crispy golden edges, or maybe even just like a little drop that happened to land on your skillet and it cooked its own little mini tiny pancake, like those always smell. You know what I'm going to describe that? That smell smells golden. If I had to choose a smell to describe the color gold, that's what it would be. It would be like a pancake or like a golden buttered popcorn. So I think that's both of these. Now for the negative here. Actually, I was going to say it was a negative. It's actually totally intentional. There isn't much wood to this, not much oak, and you're expecting it with the color. A lot of this whiskey is just kind of throwing you off. At least it's throwing me off. All right, so Popcorn, pancakes. Maybe pine needles? I'm not sure. I promise I'm not doing the peas on purpose, but it's yeah, I'm gonna go with that. It smells a little bit like a pine needle. Very weird. All right, let's go ahead and have a taste. Cheers. Not a lot going on in the taste actually, but it is also a very definitive taste. There's very little to smooth it out. I would say that's where the youthfulness is kind of coming in, and I'm not going to focus on that, I promise. But it's worth mentioning that it drinks a little bit harsh. This would not be something to give to somebody who is brand new to whiskey. I do not think they would like it. So, something to know. All right. I'm trying to think of what else I want to say about this. I'm not getting any of this buttered popcorn that I got on the nose for the palate. Let me have another sip. The challenge here is that there isn't a lot on the taste. And so finding nuance and finding a flavor note, it's kind of what I've agreed to do as a whiskey reviewer. So I feel like I owe you guys something, but I'm having a real tough time picking out anything. I think if I had to pick something, it would probably be, I think I would probably say buttery, without the popcorn. Maybe a little bit maybe a little peppery. A little bit of walnut. I'm not sure. That's really it. I'm not getting a whole lot more here. I'm going to have one more sip. I'm almost taking this as like a personal challenge to try to pick something else up. Normally I do a lot of these notes beforehand, and I did for this, but the stuff I wrote down in my notes is not matching what I'm tasting right now. So I'm not putting them out there. Like, let me just say this. So some of the things I picked up, I said like a banana bread was something I put in there, but I think that was a mixture of the butter and the walnuts that I just kind of mentioned, and I'm not really tasting any banana. So I'm kind of striking that one. I wrote like olive oil, mostly just in the viscousness, which there's a better way to describe that in this case. I would say it's viscous. It's oily, but it's not oily in the way that like a peated whiskey would be oily. This is a tough one to nail down, and I'm finding that surprising because it's just corn. It's this blue corn. It's made from roasted blue corn. I forgot to mention that earlier, but that's it. So. All right, let's go into the overall, because I don't want to just spend all day tasting. Well, I do, but not on camera. So I would say this one is not my cup of tea. As far as Balcones goes, this might be the first whiskey from them that I'm not a fan of. I personally I wouldn't recommend this. I forget how much this cost, but I'll put this down here. But keep in mind that it's a smaller distillery, so the price is probably going to be a little higher. I'm going to guess without knowing it's going to be like 45 to 50 or so. I would say like 90% of the time, youthfulness does not do it for me. I really tried to ignore that, but it's just a flavor that doesn't do it for me. There's an unrefined to it that I feel like doesn't go with what I'm looking for in whiskeys. I like to taste a whiskey and have it be like, this was something somebody really worked hard on for a long time. There was like mental, there was like a professionalism to it where like, these people know when to turn the barrels. These people know when to, cut out the hearts and the feints and all this stuff. And it just like, I like to know that there's a lot of work that went into the whiskey, and just knowing that this is fairly young. I don't know. I guess I've said all I need to say. It's not my thing. I don't know if it would be yours. If your palate tends to match mine, probably wouldn't be. But go get something different from Balcones. Everything else from them is amazing. I can't speak for the True Blue. I haven't had that before, but pretty much everything else I've had. So anyway, thank you for joining me here on the Whiskey Dictionary and for listening to me kind of meander through those tasting notes. I really wanted to kind of do a better job for you guys than I was originally going to cut it out and just be like, it's like a couple things. But whatever. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me here on the Whiskey Dictionary. I hope you have a great rest of your night. Cheers. Hi, baby. 3, 2, 1, go. Hi, baby. Let's get into it.